All right, guys. So bringing it back to the 70s today, it has been forever since I've had a Bulova in. Really glad to get the brand back on the channel, especially with a cool one like the Bulova Surfboard. Awesome watch, but there is a couple of things you should know about the watch if you're considering picking one up. Big thanks to Bezel for lending in the watch. They are an authorized dealer for many different brands. If you're shopping watches, check them out at gembezel.com. So let's get right to it and take a look at the watch. Now, the watch is modeled after the Bulova Deep Sea Chronograph A from the 1970s, which picked up the surfboard nickname due to the surfboard shape across the center of the dial surrounding the subdials. This model is the limited edition automatic version and comes out in a display box that I think is worth mentioning. It's massive and hard to fit in frame here, but let me grab it and I'll just show you guys quickly. So this is how the watch comes out. We've got the outer box, and I'm just going to get rid of that first. And inside we have what looks to be a lacquered wood box. It's hard to say what it's made from for sure, but we do have a push button to open. Inside we have some paperwork, some warranty information. We also have a little read on the Chronograph A. There's some pictures, some nice photography, nice little short read on the watch. Of course, we have the watch itself here too. Now, not everyone cares about the display boxes, but I haven't seen something quite like this, so I thought I'd show it to you guys before we get to the watch. Lately, I'm happy to see smaller, minimalist packaging with watches just for storage sake, but it's kind of fun having something like this every once in a while. Adds a little something extra to the purchasing experience. When it comes to the watch itself, you can't get much more 70s than this. Between the dial, the case shape, the colors, even the bracelet, this just screams 70s style. Bulova has been putting out a few watches in their archive series, pulling from designs from the past. There's a bunch of cool ones, but this is definitely the one that's grabbed my attention the most. The dial on the watch is an off-white with vertical brushing, and it looks really sharp. Not sure if the originals had brushed dials like that, but it goes great with the overall look. My favorite part, or at least one of them, is the pop of orange on the hands. The whole color combination with the orange and blue and the Pepsi bezel looks awesome. The whole look makes me want to jump in the Chevelle and cruise over to the beach. Unfortunately, I don't own a Chevelle and I don't live near a beach, but that would be a whole lot of fun with a watch like this on wrist. So let's fire up the chronograph here. Nice little snap to the pushers. Over at the 9 is the running seconds, and the subdial at the 3 o'clock is the minute counter for the chronograph, up to 30 minutes. On the outer perimeter of the dial, we have a tachymeter scale. The hour markers are applied steel markers. Now, so far, everything has been positive about the watch, but this brings me to one of two negatives. The first is the lume. It's actually not very good at all. The lume pip on the bezel is decent, but the markers and hands fade very quickly. You can still read them after quite a while, but they're very dim. There's quartz versions of the watch, and I've seen in videos the lume seemed brighter on those, but you never know. Sometimes camera settings can make lume look brighter than it is, but the lume is a little lacking with this one for sure. The bezel, interestingly, is a countdown bezel, so the markers are reversed. We have 10, 20, 30 going in counterclockwise. It's a bidirectional friction bezel, which is what was used on the original. I'd prefer a click bezel, but I get that they want to keep to the original design, and it works. Decent amount of resistance with it. Feels nice to use, and I always like a Pepsi bezel. The case and bracelet have very fine brushwork on the top with polished sides. I'll get to the measurements here in a minute, but you can see it's got quite a thick side profile. Actually, while we're looking from this angle, that raised sapphire crystal is a highlight. It gives some good distortion on the dial, but not to the point where it affects legibility. The bracelet is an area to consider with this watch. Couple things with it. One is the clasp. These style clasps have no micro adjusts. I'll take a regular fold over clasp any day over one of these, but they do have half links here to get a bit of a better size. Kind of helps with that, the lack of those micro adjusts. The biggest issue with it though is the links do not articulate very well. They come out quite a ways before they start to curve down the sides of your wrists. That's not an issue with my 7¼ inch wrist, but any smaller and I think you'll have some weird overhang with the bracelet. I will say the bracelet looks great, but I think a 7-inch wrist or less will have a problem with it. Size on the watch is 38.5 millimeters. The lug to lug is only 44.4 millimeters, but the measurement to where the bracelet fully drops off, like we were talking about, is about 62 millimeters. So that's very long. If you really want the watch and that's too much, a strap would easily fix that though. Thickness is up there too at 16.8 millimeters, although I find it wears thinner. A lot of that measurement is the raised crystal. Lug opening is 20 millimeters. The water resist is 200 meters. And I forgot to mention the crown is a screw down crown. The watch houses the cam operated Sellita SW510 BHB. It's a 27 joule movement beating at 28,800 vibrations per hour and with a power reserve of approximately 62 hours. And while we're talking about the movement, let's stop and see that nice snapback of the chronograph here. On my 7¼ inch wrist, I'm totally happy with how it wears and I really like the style. Now, this automatic version is limited to only 350 pieces with a full MSRP being $29.50 USD. The non-limited quartz are quite a bit more affordable if you want the look without the heftier price tag. MSRP on those is $695 USD, so very cool watch. I was actually looking at a couple other reissues of theirs the other day. The hack is on the radar for a purchase for me, so I might see if I can get one in for a test drive here soon from Gem Bijou. Thanks again to them for lending in the watch. Any questions on the watch, reach out anytime. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.